You know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the perfect time of year, I think, for a thriller. Summer is coming to a close. The colder weather is starting to come back in again. And when that gets darker, a little bit earlier now, and when that happens, that just seems to be the right time to have a thriller. Now, there's a new one out. It's called Up on the Glass. And tonight, I have an exclusive interview for you with the writers and the director of that thriller. A cinematic class is about to begin. Your professor is in. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your cinematic professor and the purveyor of truth in movies. Tonight, a special treat for you on a special edition of the show. Up on the Glass is a thriller that is currently available and fits in real nice with this fall season. Something that concerns a bunch of buddies from college. What's happened in their lives as they get together for a reunion. And of course, there's got to be a woman involved coming in between the three of them, and murder as well. I had the opportunity to sit down and talk with Kevin and Nikki Del Principe. And these folks really detailed what went on with the movie, how it led up to it, how they went about producing it. Just a really good look behind the scenes of what brought Up on the Glass to the silver screen. So without any further ado, courtesy of Zoom, here is my exclusive interview with Kevin and Nikki Del Principe on their movie Up on the Glass.
Greetings, salutations, and other sundry affair. I am your cinematic professor and the purveyor of truth in movies. You know, this is a perfect time of year when the summer starts to wind down and all the signs of fall begin to display themselves. I just think that's a great time of year to have thrillers. They just play so well when you watch them. It's something about maybe the cold coming in. I don't know, but it's just a perfect time of year. And we have one for you today that's called Up on the Glass. And this is a thriller that is, let's talk a little bit about it, because with me now are the director and writers of Up on the Glass. Please help me welcome Kevin Del Principe and Nikki. Now, Nikki was Nikki Brown during this filming of this movie, and it was after the movie that the two I guess went through so many trials and tribulations. You decided to get married, and now your happy anniversary, I guess, is up there this month.
Thank you very much for having us.
Tell me a little bit about your approach to Up on the Glass. It's not a thriller in the normal vein of thrillers. So explain your approach to it.
Well, I think in terms of thrillers, I mean, I guess it's more reflective of maybe some thrillers of the past. Looking at Hitchcock as an influence, or even looking at someone like as a novelist, Patricia Highsmith, and some of her books are made into films. So it's more on the psychological end, and I would say it has a moral component, which is one of the things that I tended to appreciate about Hitchcock. A lot of times there is some kind of morality that's being considered through what's happening with the characters, and even if it's a flaw that they have. So I'd say in that sense, it's more psychological, it's more dramatic, and more about character, and it's slower build in that way than I think a lot of thrillers that we're seeing more recently, especially Hollywood thrillers.
Mm-hmm. And you have in this movie a very strong tension between class strata. I mean, your three main characters represent three different stratas of life. And, it's kind of interesting because apparently when they were in college, that didn't matter. But now that they're out of college and going on a reunion, that really rears its head. Did you see this as a way to, insert little cultural digs, if you will, on the various levels?
Well, I don't know about digs per se, but I will say, my own experience, like, I grew up just outside of Buffalo, New York,
Mhm.
Working class, blue collar family, dad, snowplow truck driver, et cetera, for the New York State Thruway Authority, mom, a registered nurse, ended up working in the school system, used to work in hospitals. So I think part of it is I've grown up around kind of working class environments, and because of that, I think there's a hyper awareness about class. Like that, the lessons that I was taught growing up was to be able to deal with all sorts of people and communicate to everybody, because that was important. And I was also pushed and prodded into pursuing education, that was going to be the answer for life. Like so many, I think, relatively working class or middle class parents, which is a reasonable thing to want more for your kids, and if education seems like the path. So I think in a way I was drawing a little bit from my own experience of rising in some of these institutions, academic and otherwise, for better or worse. And then at the same time, I'll just speak for myself here and not for a whole class of people, but
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt a little bit on the outside of things, and I sort of connect that back to my experience growing up. So I think that's part of what I really brought into the character of Jack, and then Jack's mentality among these other people that represent these other sort of classes of people. So it may feel like there's certainly this tension that's emanating throughout, and it was very much a part of, I'd say, my own experience, and then just driving that into this specific character.
Yeah, and it seems very much in today's society that concept of, go get a good education and good things will happen. That's coming under a lot of scrutiny nowadays. Kevin, I'd like to talk to you about script writing and your approach. You and I actually have something in common here. You taught a script writing class at Loyola Marymount University. And I taught a script writing class both on the high school and college level back here on the East Coast. I'm a big Sid Field fan. I believe in that approach to script writing, the 3-act, with the plot points and all that, and that's kind of what I went by. But I know that since his death, a lot of people have been dragging him down and saying, no, you can do it another way. I'm really curious. Where do you fit on that scheme?
Well, I think, I did teach for like 5.5 years at Loyola Marymount before we moved to Memphis. And in terms of our training, when we went to USC for our MFA, we were taught very much the sequence, approach of 8 sequences in a film, the 3 acts, all your major points. And I do remember at the time, one of our instructors, Ted Braun, he was giving us kind of an analysis class of how to break down material. And I feel like, he was kind of saying that, really it was the sort of thing that we will apply, over time. And I do recall when I was first being trained as a screenwriter, because I had done playwriting, et cetera, before, it seemed really foreign to me. I seemed kind of mechanical. I had a hard time wrapping my brain around it at first. But then after school, and then even more so as I started teaching, I really started to appreciate that love of structure and analysis, and especially in terms of even not only revising my own work, but also being a support to others. Trying to help students. Then, when I was wearing that other hat as a teacher, it was really helpful, because it's almost like having that grammar, that language, that then you can just speak about stuff, as opposed to if you never learned grammar in school, like so many kids never learn grammar, then it's really like hard as anything to figure out how to make a sentence. Yes. And so I think in that way, it kind of like the film. It took me a little bit of time to really wrap my brain around it. Once I did, I found it tremendously useful.
Now, Nikki, I'm going to pull you in on this too, because you actually co-wrote the script for Up on the Glass with Kevin. And, it was, talk about 180 degrees. You were originally, I think it was what, biology? Yeah, biology major. So
Yep.
you're in the sciences, and then you do like a 180 and go for your MFA into writing. What caused that transformation?
Yes, it's a good question because on the face, it does not seem like there's a connection there. I think the short story is that I've always had this wonder for the world and this desire for understanding. And when I was younger, science was the way into that, and it transitioned later in life into storytelling. And I found that to be a more powerful way into deepening understanding and kind of expressing that wonder for the world. But yeah, it was kind of, I think a lot of people were surprised when I did go to USC for screenwriting immediately after undergrad and majoring in biology, because I was on this path of going into research, and for the longest time I really wanted to study animal behavior.
Wow.
It was interesting work, and I was able to go to a lot of different places, and studied in Costa Rica, and then went to Kenya and did a study abroad there, and studied elephants and hyenas, and it was all very fascinating. But at the same time, I was taking film classes, which was my minor with a concentration in screenwriting. And storytelling has always been a sort of deep love of mine since I was a child. And I think I was starting to realize throughout my college experience that this is what I am really driven to do. Like, I'm fascinated by the world, but the act of research is sort of less aligned with where my passions are than storytelling is. So by the time I graduated, I'd fully come to that realization and sort of surprised a lot of people by going to USC and going down that path.
Now, I'll throw you a bit of a curveball here, because I saw in your past you do some ghost writing, and I'm curious as to whether or not you are ghost writing for these executives because A, they don't have the time, or B, they don't have the grammar skills that Kevin was talking about.
Yes. Well, I think, first and foremost, they don't have the time usually. Many of them are talented writers, some are not. But because that really is my skill set, I've been able to make that into a craft, and do that fairly easily and quickly. And so it's something I can offer to these companies that have a need for that.
Okay, now since we, I didn't set you up on this, but since we segued nice into grammar, let me ask you about your production company, which is called Save Them Wild Dogs. That's not right, guys. What are you doing here?
Well, just trying to throw people off, I guess.
Well, what about Save Them Wild Dogs? Where did you come up with a name like that for a production company, and why?
Yeah, I guess Nikki probably she's a good explanation, I think, for maybe.
Okay.
Well, I think it was really intuitive for you, Kevin, when you came up with it. But the way I see it now is that it's pretty simple. We both love dogs, so that's pretty basic. But there's also this kind of deeper sentiment and appreciation for all that is wild. Whether we're talking about creatures or places or ideas.
Yeah, and I think also just like for goodness, and also for people or whomever may be on the margins a little bit, like the wild dogs, they're kind of out there on the margins, and maybe they just need a little bit of understanding. So maybe that's what it is.
That's quite romantic. That's very, that's a very good lookout. You know, I want to get back to the movie Up on the Glass again. Kevin, I'm going to, well, both of you, I'm going to play devil's advocate with you here because this thriller is what I like to call a dangling participle. See, we're back to grammar, grammar again. When the ending comes, it's not an ending. I mean, it ends, but it's open for interpretation as to what happens. Now, I've got to tell you right off the bat, as soon as the movie ended, that scene on the beach there, I immediately thought, okay, this is what happens. And I filled in the blanks and I knew how that movie was going to end. Might not be right, but but I thought of that. You know, when we get these types of thrillers and I do the reviews for them, most of the comments that I get back are from people who are adverse to that type of ending. They want to see hardcore what happened, you know, come to an ending, don't leave it up to me.
Yeah.
So how do you address fans of thrillers who are like that, who don't like to fill it in themselves, and you know, and what was your rationale for your approach to ending the movie that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a good point in terms of, I think that is true. A lot of people get frustrated at those sorts of endings. I think endings also are somewhat to taste, though, in terms of, you know, some people have a willingness or an attraction to something that's a little more open ending where they can fill in the blanks. I suppose if some people are sort of upset about it, I guess like part of my response generally is, you know, too bad, in the sense of like, well, that's what I wanted to do, you know, and you can end your own movie the way you want. And, you know, in terms of that, they can do what they want. And even in this case, I suppose they can fill in the blank if they want. And maybe they have a better idea, or maybe, hopefully, if I've done my job, I think that perhaps we're giving some direction as to where Jack is at the end, where Liz is at the end. And I think that might be true, even though it's not overt.
Well, I'm really going to infuriate my fans, because once we stop the recording of this interview, you and I are going to talk, and I'm going to tell you what I thought of the ending. I'm going to see if I'm on the right page, and no one else will know about it. And they can stop and buy me a coffee if they want to know what we talked about.
All right.
Nikki, let's get back to you for a little bit. You have an extensive background in, well, let's start by saying that you have a keen interest in how modern technology infuses with culture, the effects of both and how they interreact and interrelate. You know, I got to be honest with you. I watched a podcast that you have online that was dated back, I think, to June. And honest to God, I thought you guys were talking a different language. I did not understand anything. And I'm looking at this going, what the hell is she talking about? You know, this whole cryptocurrency and this thing called, is it a blockchain? Did I get that right? This blockchain stuff. I mean, it's mind-boggling. I went on some of those links that were in the podcast, and I'm looking at stuff, and it's like, what in the world is this kind of stuff? But from what I understand, you know this kind of stuff. And I got just a little hint that maybe, just maybe, people could use this information, since it's not readily knowledgeable, and could probably do some nefarious things with it. So, knowing that you have this background, would it be safe to say that there may be another thriller dealing with cryptocurrency or blockchains coming up under the auspices of Save Them Wild Dogs?
That is certainly possible. We haven't talked directly about doing a thriller about cryptocurrencies per se, but we have talked about potentially making a movie based on Kevin's book, I, Animal. It's his debut novel. And I do think the maybe loose connection between cryptocurrencies in this blockchain space and maybe the film is that people who tend to appreciate cryptocurrencies have kind of a suspicion of institutions, because the essence of cryptocurrency is that you don't need an intermediary to transact with other people or entities. So you don't need the bank, or if we're talking about film, you don't need the traditional gatekeepers. You can just share your film directly with people. And so I think there is some attitude that is maybe shared, with maybe the perspective in the film as well.
And I think you're right too, that sort of technology, either it could be used for really useful and beautiful aims, the romantic idea of it, or certainly like more nefarious. So it's right territory for, I think, story as well, certainly.
And let me ask you this, Nikki and Kevin both. A lot of people are funding their films now through Kickstarter and GoFundMe. Do you see this type of technology, this crypto technology and blockchains, being a way for someone to finance an entire movie?
Yes, and it's already being done.
Really?
Yes, there's a company called Breaker that is farthest along in developing a platform that will allow creators to fundraise in cryptocurrencies directly from fans. But there's probably a dozen projects that are seeking to do a similar thing. Maybe prototypes or some phase of a product created. So I think that it's in the future, but it's up in the air how long it will take to become mainstream, because as you can tell from listening to the podcast, even the lingo can be difficult for someone to get a handle on immediately, and then the usability itself has a long way to go. You have to learn how to use a private wallet, and maybe you have to get some Bitcoin first and then convert that into the native token of the platform. So there's all these steps.
Yeah, you're losing people already. Is this a viable way to finance a film?
It is a viable way, yes.
Really?
The only issue is the user base. You need a lot of people to participate in this ecosystem to be able to finance many films, and we're just not there yet, as you can imagine. It's still kind of niche.
I know that you may be a little biased in this, but do you think this whole blockchain and cryptocurrency, since you tie in technology with culture, do you think this is a good thing for culture, for our culture?
I do think so, because of the empowerment and the agency that allows people to gain control of their own value, finances, as well as data, for example. All the social media platforms that we use right now, we as consumers are making these companies very profitable, but we make nothing from it ourselves except for getting likes if we're lucky, and
Right.
we're supposed to feel good about that. Meanwhile, these companies are making billions upon billions of dollars off of our data, which maybe we should own, and cryptocurrency can allow for that.
As we wrap this up here, Kevin, I want to pull you back in again, and I want to make sure I get this quote right. You said in your filmmaking, what you would like to do is connect the Midwest and the Mid-South with the coasts. I got to tell you, I've been doing film reviews since 1976. That's probably before both of you were born. And the people on the coast in the two-letter cities, they look at that whole area, that's flyover country, and it will never be anything more than flyover country.
Right.
So that task is rather daunting. How do you propose to do that?
Well, I guess, that mentality, I think that is common, and it really upsets me. And like I'm only one guy, or we only have a small company, so I don't think that I have the power to do all that myself. But I think one thing that we have at our disposal is this is a beautiful country, and there's a lot of interesting people and a lot of interesting places. So, like in our own small way, we were able to show that about this area in Michigan,
Mhm.
and I hope for our next film we can do that in Buffalo, and then maybe we can do that in Memphis, and then hopefully we could do that in terms of helping some other people as well. Not just sort of serving our own projects that are passion projects. So that would be kind of the goal in a small way, and I think there's a lot of energy and a lot of creativity in these other cities and small towns, et cetera, because like the reality is, like, a lot of these big cities are not where it's at anymore. Like the idea of LA is an idea,
Yeah.
but reality is, like, these smaller communities, especially for creative people that are independently minded, like that's more like the community aspect that can be more sustainable potentially. I mean, if you look back to, like, this is a long answer, but if you look back to, say, the studio system, for all of its flaws, at least there was like a mechanism that allowed for a lot of great films to be made, and allowed people to work on multiple projects, even for the same company. And now everything is kind of like one off. At least it
Mhm.
feels a lot more like that. So I just think that in these smaller cities and smaller communities where there are sort of senses of a true network of people who are maybe friends and care about each other and believe in each other, I think there's a lot of hope and a lot of positivity there. And then we have technology now in ways that we didn't previously, with digital technology, where we can work with people all over. So, like, for us in our film, our composers in Chicago, my best friend I grew up with is the DP. He's from Buffalo. We got crew from Grand Rapids. So it's like now we can really bring people together. And we were able to bring LA people in for actors, et cetera, and Michigan people.
Mhm.
Michigan guy was an actor, for instance. So we're able to pull it off in a way. So I think if anything, I would just like to be an example of that and to be an advocate for that. And then if we can grow, then that's fantastic. But I don't think that we're going to be the only ones that are able to do that.
Great. Kevin, Nikki, I got to tell you, I appreciate very much you stopping by the cameras today and talking with your film. The thriller is called Up on the Glass. You want to check this bad boy out, especially since the timing of the year is correct. Now, Kevin and I are going to talk off screen, but for the rest of you guys, I'll be back in just a moment.
So I want to thank Kevin and Nikki for stopping by the cameras. Nice people to talk to. We had great conversation, not only on camera, but off camera too. Really wish them well with the movie, and we'll keep abreast of their future endeavors. Their current thriller is Up on the Glass. I think you'll enjoy this one. Here's a look.
How you doing, Jackie?
Good to see you, Mose.
Where were you before Maine again?
Virginia. I got fired from my last job.
How come?
Hit my boss.
Not bad, huh?
This is amazing.
I thought you'd like it. There's space out there. Men need that. Show me what you're made of. You've always kept secrets, Jack.
Seems I can't trust any of my friends. Can you tell me? Did something happen to him?
I need you to let this go, Liz.
That is going to do it for us tonight. Again, thanks to Nikki and Kevin for swinging by our cameras. And again, thanks to Anthony and Katie for helping out in the studio. And of course, our friend the bear. Now that you have learned what you have learned, class is dismissed.